Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for more dedicated legacy action. We are keeping the spookiness going this Halloween week, and we are playing a deck that I've called OOGIE BOOGIE. So we are playing the big, scary insect man from Nightmare Before Christmas, and that is basically Grist, right? It's just a big man filled with insects. So this deck that I've built is attempting to be spooky whilst also showcasing some new cards I think are pretty good in a shell that I really enjoy, which is like the Loam shell. So we have the Loam shell. We've got a nice suite of lands here. So we've got our Wastelands, we've got our Urza Saga as a win condition. You've got a few little bits we can find, you know, your Boseijus, Maze of Ith, some surveil lands, that sort of jazz. And we've got some mana acceleration to make this happen quicker in the form of Mox Diamond and Exploration. And then what we want to be doing is milling ourselves over. And to do this, we're going to be using the Life from the Loams. We also have this card called Say Its Name. This is a new one from Duskmourn. 2 mana, mill 3 cards, and return a creature or land card from your graveyard to your hand. Exile this card and 2 other cards named Say Its Name from your graveyard, and then you get to search for this creature and put it into play, which is a 7 mana 9/9 trample, and when it gets targeted, we get to draw a card. And you can also, if this is in your hand, you can discard it and return a land from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. So this kind of does the things we want, and it's an insect as well, which is pretty cool. So it triggers off of Grist when we're doing the milling. We're going heavy into Grist here. Something I say every time I play Grist is I wish I had more copies of it in a deck. Just having one or whatever, it's like, okay, but whenever I play this, it feels like the best card in the deck. So we're playing 4 today. It's thematic, but also I think it is a very good card. Speaking of insects, though, we've got another insect here, which is a new card from Duskmourn that I think is very good. This is a Kindred Sorcery Shapeshifter. So this is an insect, so this will trigger the Grist. And it wants to be in the graveyard because it has Retrace, which means we can cast it from the graveyard by discarding a land card as an additional cost. So this is create an XX colorless shapeshifter creature token with Changeling and Death Touch, where X is the number of land cards in your graveyard. So we can just make increasingly large Death Touch blockers with this, which is quite a nice thing to have, to be honest. So we're hoping to leverage this. It's nice and spooky too, so we're definitely on theme here. But this is a card that I've been wanting to test out and haven't really had an opportunity to yet, because I've been playing lots of other bits and pieces in the meta. So we're trying to build around here. Now, this is obviously a bit of a thematic deck, but there are some very real cards that we want to test here and see how they feel. And I do think this deck looks reasonable. We've got some Lilianas in there as a bit more board control, as well as being able to crack our opponent's hand. Helps us put more cards in our graveyard that we can then just get back with Life from the Loam if we want to anyway. We also have an Entomb package, which is something I'm a big fan of. Just having a couple of Entombs as 2 extra copies of Life from the Loam that can also become, you know, a copy of Formless Genesis. Or we can go and get Worm Harvest if we need to go wide. Or we can get Raven's Crime if we need to strip our opponent's hand. Or we can go and get another copy of Say Its Name to give us enough to bring back Altanak. So we've got some good utility with Entomb. I've definitely played like Slow Depths with Entomb on the channel before. In fact, I'll link you the link to when I played Slow Depths last time on the channel with Entomb in it. Because I really enjoy this sort of play pattern of using Entomb for something that isn't just cheating an Archon of Cruelty into play, right? That sounds a lot more fun to me than what most people are using Entomb for. Anyway, our Urza Saga package, we have some Graveyard Hate in Ghost Vacuum. We should have enough mana to actually activate the bottom part of this, so it will be more than just flavor text. We have Haywire Mite, which is an insect, which is obviously part of our theme, but this is a useful effect that we might have a lot of call for at times. And we have a Vexing Bauble if we just need to stop some of these decks that are going to be, you know, trying to jam out some combo stuff, if we can get in underneath that. Alternatively, we can make sure that our big scary things resolve down the line. This could be a Shadow Spear to give us the ability to have some lifesteal, and that's something I'm going to be looking at when I'm playing here. That's pretty much it for the main deck. Sideboard-wise, we've got 1 Coffin Purge, which we can find with the Entomb. We've got 4 Leyline in the Void. The reason I like Leyline in the Void here is we don't want our opponent's frogs to be able to jump in the matchups where we're bringing this in, you know, like Blue-Black Reanimator and stuff. We don't want our opponents to be able to jump because we're trying to play Death Touch blockers. So this is going to be a useful card for that. Whereas if we had something like Fairy, it stops the reanimation side of things, but then the frog can still jump, and that's an issue. We have a Vengeful Pharaoh, another Entomb target. We put this into the graveyard. Whenever a creature deals damage to us, they get killed, and we put this on top of our library, and we can just mill it over again with whatever. So I quite like having Vengeful Pharaoh. We've got some Assassin's Trophies just as a catch-all removal spell. We've got a couple of Fatal Pushes when we need to interact with our opponent a bit more. We've got 3 Opposition Agents to try and help versus some combo matchups. This is for Beseech the Mirror decks and Doomsday decks, basically, which we're going to struggle against the way we're laid out, but that's fine. And we've got Pithy Needle that we can also go and grab when things call for that. So we're trying to Wasteland lock our opponent. We're trying to just grind them out with some sweet value here. I did have a build of this which was trying to be a Pox deck, but there's just too many things to fit in. But hopefully you'll enjoy this festive Halloween OOGIE BOOGIE deck. So please remember to like and subscribe. And if you want to see my videos early, become a member for just £1 a month, and you get to do exactly that. Alright, let's go spook some opponents. Our opener miraculously has no lands in it, despite almost half of our deck being lands. So we're going to be sending this one back. Alright, this is a turn 2 Planeswalker and then a turn 3 Planeswalker. That seems like a good thing to keep here. Probably get rid of just one of these Verdant Catacombs. We have a Wasteland we can fire off as well if we need to. It slows down the other things we're doing a little bit, but that's fine. A Golgari Lantern. Off of Urza's Workshop. Is this just like a one-off piece and they're generally a combo deck? Do I want to start Ravens Criming my opponent? Is this going to be a matchup where we need to reduce our opponent's ability to play the game? I think it might be. I think we're going to get Bayou here. Our opponent might be like a critical mass Karn Forge style deck, so just taking out any piece might help us out here. We can play the Mox Diamond and Raven's Crime a second time. We'll see what they discard and see if we want to do that. And then we're probably on the Liliana ticking up train. I discarded an Urza Saga. Do I want to play this Mox Diamond? I think we play the Mox Diamond, we pitch the Mortuary. The problem with playing the Mox Diamond here is if our opponent has something like a Karn, then we just don't get to use mana from this, and we've gotten rid of one of our lands to do so. So if we do this, we imprint this, we discard a land, that doesn't really get us anywhere, because we'd have to draw a land next turn. So I think we're just going to leave it as that singular Raven's Crime. Then next turn we can jam a Liliana and start ticking up. Grim Monolith, this is feeling very Karn 4G, and the Golgari Lantern is just a one-off for their Urza Saga package. Voltaic Key, so they can use this to untap the Grim Monolith. If our opponent plays a Karn here, I'm not going to be very happy about it. The One Ring. Alright, that's annoying. That kind of makes our Liliana look a bit rubbish because they're just going to have so many cards that they're always going to have something to pitch. So this is certainly going to be one of the matchups where we're going to struggle. But I did say that at the top that some of our common matchups might be a bit difficult. So we can Wasteland our opponent here. Is that better than getting a Grist in? Like, we're definitely playing this Mox Diamond. And we pitch the Mortuary here. So Liliana can take the remaining card out of their hand. Or we can get the Grist and get something going. I think we're just trying to get the Grist going. I don't think any of our options look particularly good here. Because the problem is, if we play the Liliana here and we lose the Wasteland, that's actually a tool that is really helpful. Because if we can take our opponent's mana out a little bit more underneath them, then maybe they get to play less things. The Liliana plussing isn't really going to matter in the face of the One Ring because they're going to have so many cards each turn. Alright, they're Voltaic Keying to untap their One Ring, drawing many more cards. Because what we want to do is use our Wastelands to make our opponent choose between cards or mana, and hopefully that will constrain them enough that we can find a way to pull ahead. Although our deck's not supposed to be closing the game super quick. We're trying to grind people out a bit. So we might be in some amount of trouble here. But if we can strip out their Workshop and Saga and force them into using Ancient Tomb, and then hopefully the life loss of that and the One Ring will stack up enough that we can sort of get through it. Obviously, if you want to play against this matchup and improve your matchup against it, then play some Null Rods and some Collector Reefs. Simple as that. Karn the Great Creator. Alright, so we have the ability to kill that with Grist, because Grist is Destroy Target Creature or Planeswalker. Let's see what they go and find. Alright, they're just plussing on our Mox. Okay, that's fine. That's honestly alright. The Mox wasn't working under the Karn anyway. Vexing Bauble. That's fine. Okay. Do I want to use this in team? Well, we're going to use it. So we'll attack our opponent here. Then we will sacrifice our insect token. Blow up the Karn. Take out this Saga. There's Wasteland. Am I taking out another land here and forcing them onto Ancient Tomb? I think I am. Obviously, this has some problems with what we're trying to accomplish. So we can Entomb and force our opponent to use their Golgari Lantern on something, perhaps. If we put a Life from the Loam in the graveyard, we can't dredge it because we only have one land. We're just not going to be able to get past all this card advantage our opponent is throwing at us here. Alright. They're down to 8 with 5 cards on the One Ring, and 5 counters on the One Ring. So they're relatively close to dying here, but they can probably just find another copy of the One Ring at this point. And we're not really pressuring them with what we have. Alright, we're doing a Kozilek's Command. So they get to dig for 6 cards and try and find the one thing they need. And they've got all these tokens to then make the mana for it. Eventually they can try and win with the Glaring Fleshraker, but we're not putting them in a position where they have to win right now. They just need to not lose to their own One Ring. with 9 cards in hand and being able to look at the top 6, I suspect they are going to get away scot-free from this 1 ring damage and just play another one. Now, they could just properly kill us this turn as well. 2 on the top, 4 on the bottom. So they got one of the ones they wanted and the other one is on top. A Manifold Key. We're probably firing off this Entomb at end step just so we have a little bit more chance of drawing into something meaningful. Right, untapping the 1 ring. If they tap this, then it means they are dead to the Ancient Tomb next turn. If they activate it. But they probably just play the 1 ring. Nope, just a Fleshraker. Okay. And Grim Monolith. It's gonna be tough. Yep, Voltaic Key. So they're getting damage and mana when they cast spells like this. Now they cast another copy of the 1 ring, we can just scoop it up here. Right, Kozilek's Command. So this is going to get them some more mana. It's going to ping us a bunch. The issue we have is even if our opponent doesn't play the 1 ring this turn, they're still not dead to the 1 ring in play. Right, so they're going to knock us down to, what, 12, I think? And then anything else? Okay, another Voltaic Key. So their 1 mana spells are free at this point. And this is the 1 mana spell that untaps their 3 mana artifact. So they're just going to keep going here. Mystic Forge. When I've been playing the deck that our opponent's playing, I haven't been that impressed with the Mystic Forge. I understand why it's in there. It's better than some of the other things that it can get you going out of nowhere. But you're playing a decent chunk of artifacts that cost, and like colourless spells that cost quite a bit, so it's not always the easiest to get them off the top. Like, it's obviously not as good as Karn or the 1 ring. But I guess when you've got those engines in your deck, everything's going to feel bad compared to it, right? Alright, so we're still going here. Untapping. They got 10 cards in hand and a Mystic Forge in play. Just another K command. Feels like a K command the way they're paying the mana here, so if they put that on the stack, we can scoop it up. Yep, that'll do. Alright, unsurprisingly, we got clapped by a combo deck. So, Pith and Needle is good here. Assassin's Trophy can blow up some of their things. Legend of the Void does nothing here. Opposition Agent can just work on their sagas, and that's not really good enough. Do I want the Fatal Pushes to deal with Fleshrakers? That is their win condition. So these are an option. What doesn't look good here? The Vexing Bauble looks pretty bad. The Haywire Mite looks good. The Ghost Vacuum looks bad. The Cabal Pit is fine here. The Maze of Ith is probably cuttable. They might make a giant construct token is the only thing. But we can probably live with that. Like, we have the Boseijus for that, in theory. So we've got a maze. I don't think we want to trim any more lands here. I'm kind of tempted to trim a Mox Diamond due to the Karn. But we do need our ways of accelerating out if we're trying to do this sort of stuff on 3. But I guess having 7 accelerations is still probably okay. Alright, we'll go with this. If we had some Force of Vigor type cards, that'd be pretty handy here. Okay, so this hand is a little bit slow, but we probably go turn 1, get an Undercity Sewers here. The Barren Moor coming in tapped might jam us up down the line. A Vexing Bauble, that does nothing. They brought that in because of Force of Vigor. So we can get an Undercity Sewers here, or, sorry, not Undercity Sewers, Underground Mortuary. Or we could go and get a Bayou and then cycle this Barren Moor. And then next time we can just pick it all up with the Life of the Loam. And that's probably slightly better. Exploration, okay. Wouldn't mind drawing a land here. Did not draw a land. And we just loaming these back. Loam does feel very slow compared to what our opponent's doing. But next turn we can get a Grist down and start ticking that up. A Glaring Fleshraker. We have a removal spell for this one. And I can assure you we are going to fire it off. So we're definitely using this Assassin's Trophy. Our opponent may not have anything that interacts with the Assassin's Trophy. Like no basic lands. Do I want to dredge this right now? No. A Wasteland, that's pretty good. So I think it's Exploration, play out the Catacombs, play out the Wasteland. We go and fetch ourselves. Forest is basically a buy here anyway, so we just get the forest. Let's kill this while we can. See what they get land-wise and decide where we're pointing our Wasteland after that. They might have a single copy of Waste, they did not. So if we take out the Urza's Workshop, then the City of Traitors will die anyway when they play in their next land. So I think that's where I want to be here. And then next turn, we can Life from the Loam, get back our Wasteland, attack wherever land they have left. So they're going to use this Sea of Traitors or lose it this turn. And if they play another land, they lose it anyway. So they're in a bit of a bind to our Wasteland lock. Now we've seen that they have Artifact Hate, Graveyard Hate in the form of Golgari Lantern. And I have to imagine that they would be cutting the Vexing... Would they be cutting the Vexing Baubles before the Golgari Lanterns? Hard to say. Just because of Force of Vigor. Alright. So let's Life from the Loam back our lands. Play our Wasteland here. Get rid of this one. Let's cycle this Barren Moor. Let's get our Life from the Loam. What have we got there? We've got Formless Genesis. That's pretty good. I could shut down the Voltaic Key with the Pithing Needle, but I think we're better off using that on a Karn or a One Ring. And we're kind of waiting to see which one they get before we choose. We can then go and get a Surveil land in our opponent's end step. And we can just keep Wastelanded if our opponent plays a land. They didn't play a land. Okay. We might be winning this one. We'll see. Let's Surveil. And Urza Saga. Do I want that? Oh, we're dredging Life from the Loam anyway, and we just want to make some big creatures here. So let's dredge this. Wasteland. Cabal Pit. And Verdant Catacombs. No, we only want 2 because we're going to make some big creatures this turn. I'll just take 2. Okay, so we want to play out the Cabal Pits, which taps for black anyway because of Urborg. We play out the Wasteland. And then we cast Formless Genesis. So we made a 5/5. We have a Cabal Pit that we can leave up to try and mess with our opponent's Glaring Fleshraker. Alright. Not seen this art before. Pretty gnarly. Certainly is creepy. Let's bash with Shapeshifter token. Alright, let's dredge back. Boseiju, very good here. There's a Saga. Barren Moor. So we probably want to play out this as a Saga. So that we can then, when we cast this Formless Genesis. Genesis. So we're going to leave up the Cabal Pit and a green mana here. That way we can Boseiju. So we can Boseiju or we can Cabal Pit. Which covers us for the scarier things that our opponent can do. Inventor's Fair. So the Wasteland we never get to do anything with. A Voltaic Key. Sure. That doesn't do very much here. A Vexing Bauble. That's fine. So we don't need to make another token this turn. Because we already have lethal here. So we'll bash for this. We'll take out their only land. I think we just take out their mana source here. Oh, misclicked that one. I meant to play that out. Okay, do we do anything differently here? I think we're playing out this Pithing Needle on Voltaic Key. This just stops them getting higher mana. Alright, they scooped it up to the Pithing Needle there. Yeah, I meant to click that to take out their Mox Opal, then we play the Pithing Needle to name these. Alright, that worked out okay. I think we just try and do that again and just play the mana denial strategy. I do enjoy playing these green-black Loam style decks. This hand has no mana denial. The Liliana is probably slow without an acceleration here. I think we have to mulligan this. Alright, we have some mana acceleration. We have a little bit of denial of some description. We don't get to play the expiration out on turn 1, which is a bit of a problem. But I think we can keep this one. And what are we putting back? It's probably the Genesis. We probably have to play the Mortuary on 1 so that we at least have access to green mana on turn 2. Because we may very well need it to stop ourselves dying. Voltaic Key. Yeah, the starts that this deck has with Grim Monolith do feel nigh on unbeatable when I played with the deck. Okay. Our turn 2 removal spell is going to be too slow for their turn 1 4-drop, I think. They have a lot of lines that just shut us out of the game entirely next turn. Let's see what they go and find here. We could go for the Lattice Lock next turn if they have a little bit more mana. I got 4 mana here. So a Soul Land, like a Sea of Traitors or something, will be enough to Lattice Lock us. Paradox Engine, okay. They're not even going to lock us, they're just going to beat us. Okay. Okay, I guess it's all we have to do here. Yeah, Raven's Crime versus the Draw Your Whole Deck deck. Not the best. Like, if we can constrain our opponent and drain their resources while they can't deploy them, that works. So, you know, it's still worth having in the deck. Trying to, like, fair grind someone with the crime is not going to work here. Alright, so they have the Lattice Lock if they want it here. So they're activating the card, they're going to play the Lattice. Yep, that's the game. Yeah, this is going to be a tricky matchup. If we had some null rod style effects in the board, we could probably beat this, but I wanted to have the opposition agents because you're more likely to see Beseech combo decks and especially Doomsday, which is one of the sort of higher tier decks right now. This deck is really good, by the way, the Karn Forge deck. It was one of the, I think it was the highest win rate of any combo deck at the first Eternal weekend. So it's definitely something you shouldn't sleep on. And that's why I play 4 null rods in my, or 4 null rod effects in my Dark Depths deck at the moment. But yeah, we could have had some effects that would have helped us out here. Although against this start that our opponent had, it would have been very difficult for us to do anything. And that's the power of this deck. Alright, let's go to round 2. Okay, this hand is interesting. I think we keep it. I want to start off on the Urza Saga so we can start ticking towards something. So we're probably casting Say Its Name on turn 2. And we'll go from there. So maybe like a turn 3 Pithing Needle or a turn 3 Vexing Bauble could be quite a useful thing to be leaning upon. We might be in a situation where we're wastelanding here. Alright, we're not. They got a basic island. That means Ponder or Tamiyo. Alright, it's Tamiyo. I would have preferred to have seen a Ponder there, because this card can run away with the game somewhat. We don't have a chance to play around Wasteland here, so we're just going to play our Saga out and try the Yavimaya into Say Its Name next turn. If they have a Wasteland, it's going to go on this Saga, rather than being saved for our green source or whatever. Because Saga is definitely one of those cards where you want to get out of play as soon as possible before it starts doing more stuff. So this will be a good test to see if our opponent has a Wasteland. Cavern of Souls. This is the Doomsday build. Frog. Yeah, so we're going to have an uncounterable Psychic Frog here. Not that we can count stuff anyway. But yeah, this 1-2 punch of Tamiyo into Psychic Frog is, in my opinion, the best thing you can do in Legacy. It just feels very, very strong right now. Okay, so if we cast Say Its Name, like we could Wasteland here, but then we're just getting behind on Frog and they're just going to dump all their cards. So we need to find something here. Let's Say Its Name and see what happens. I can daze this if they want to. They did not. Would I like to get an Urza Saga or would I like to get a Wasteland? Given the Wastelands in our hand, I'm just going to get an Urza Saga back. We have a Cabal Pit. We can't activate it just yet, so we'll have 3, 4, 5, 6 cards in graveyard once this Urza Saga dies. This is another Frog. It is. Okay. We are in some trouble here. Am I dredging life from Loam? What does that actually get us? Nothing, I don't think here. I think we say cancel this. A Raven's Crime. So we can force them to make their creatures large. That's certainly a choice, isn't it? Alright, we'll float green off of the Saga. And what are we getting here? We can get a Mox Diamond to power some stuff out. What are we powering out is the problem. We could get a Ghost Vacuum to strip some cards out of their graveyard, but then what is that doing? Not very much. I think it is just the Mox Diamond here. Like the Vexing Bauble can stop us having stuff countered, but it's not really the problem right now. I'll get rid of one of these Urza Sagas that I know about. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We've got one floating. We could start stripping their hand. They're probably just going to put counters on both of these, and we're unlikely to kill it with a Cabal Pit. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So yeah, we can't really do that anyway. So we're probably looking at loaming these cards back. Our opponent won't care about that. Like we can start wastelanding our opponent, but it doesn't do anything because our opponent is so far ahead over there. Right, let's just Raven's Crime so we don't have to discard the hand size. We could always dredge life the Loam and mill 2 more Say Its Names and get ourselves a big creature. Right, discarded a Daze. Sure. We don't have a Shadow Spear in the main deck, so we can't just make some constructs and try and bash that way. They're probably going to get an Undersea Sewers here. Yeah. Would love to draw an Exploration. I think we are better off drawing a card than dredging here. Because dredging would have to hit 2 Say Its Names to really be any good here. Formless Genesis would be okay if we were to dredge that. But we could draw into something like a Grist or a Liliana that actually impacts the board a little bit. They're just drawing cards rather than trying to funnel damage into us, which is something that gives us a way of holding on to this game for a little bit longer. A Dark Ritual. Okay, so they're on the Doomsday plan right now. Okay. How are we going to beat this? Because our opponent gets to draw 2 additional cards next turn with their Psychic Frogs. They know we have a Wasteland. So we can point a Wasteland out there under city sewers. They're just going to put a land in their pile, or they might have a land in hand, so it doesn't matter. Not really sure how we best what our opponent's putting down here. Anything unusual in their list? Nope, just a sort of classic Doomsday Frog Tamiyo list, as it's called now. I played this a while ago on the channel, and it did feel like the best build of Doomsday, and I played against it a lot, and it's been putting up the results, so I think it's pretty much solved that this is better than doing any of the personal tutor style stuff. Oh, we're just getting killed this turn. There's Underground Sea, plus the Tamiyo. We've got 3 cards in hand. Alright, so they put some sort of protection on top of their library, and then drew that with the Street Wraith. We'll not dredge here. So Wasteland doesn't stop our opponent from making their guy. What does anything here do? I don't believe we have any outs here, unless it's our opponent messing up their pile. But even if they mess up their pile, can they still kill us here anyway? 3, 4, 5. Yeah, so they can kill us even if they messed up their pile. Which isn't a great way for us to be playing this game. Alright, let's just do the things we have. Let's take out this Underground Sea. Sure, they're drawing through their pile even quicker. So they can return a card with the Tamiyo, and then they have lethal cards to pitch to Psychic Frog. So we have to block a Psychic Frog here. That's if our opponent doesn't just immediately win the game. Right, yep, they can crack a clue. That's the same difference. I do not believe our opponent has messed up their pile here. I think we are about to get killed. So play Thassel's Oracle. They have no cards in library. They win the game. Okay, so we at least have the opposition agents, which was one of the things I really wanted for this matchup. So let's have those in. I would like some Fatal Pushes. And I think the Assassin's Trophy is justifiable. The Wormhouse is probably too slow for a matchup like this. So that can probably go. Haywire Mite isn't doing anything. The Ghost Vacuum isn't doing very much here. Maze of Ith, definitely good against the old froggies. I do like the Raven's Crime here still. Vexing Bauble, fine. Like, we're keeping the new cards. We're not boarding our new cards out because we want to see them in action. So this little block of 8 we're going to try and keep in every round. Unless something really wild happens and we're trying to fend off the reverse trophy. But I don't think that's going to happen. We'll get a game win somewhere. A match win. So at the moment, we've got the 3 opposition agents. If we want the Fatal Pushes, which we definitely do, we probably need to make some other cuts. I like too many of the cards in our deck is the problem. Maybe we're less on graveyard stuff, because our opponent's going to bring in graveyard hate. So we bring in a couple of Fatal Pushes. And maybe we trim 1 Loam for a trophy. Maybe we should trim... No, I like the crime though. That gives us 3 outs to their creatures. We also can make Death Touch creatures. I don't think this is a match I want Leyline, even though it can be useful against the frog. Do I want Pith and Needle for Tamiyo? I think we probably do want Pith and Needle for Tamiyo. That means we probably have to trim a Mox Diamond, I think. Alright. That's annoying because we kind of want the Mox Diamond to power out these little guys. But the Expiration does a similar job. I will keep this. Not a bad hand against Doomsday. 3 of our best sideboard card in the matchup. The problem is they might just go for like a frog line and beat us with that. Force of Will, our Expiration. That's good news. Would love to draw a land. I suspect they're getting a basic land off of this fetch land. But we'll see. Are we doing the classic Life from the Loam for nothing here? We are. Means we have to go shields down with this Wasteland that maybe could interact. So that end step they can go and get a Surveil land if they want. And we can't punish them for it. But we need to get something going. There's an Underground Sea. We're going to see something like a frog. Just a Tamiyo. And a frog. Alright, so we've got a hand that lines up very well against the Doomsday side of their deck. That is not the side of the deck that they have there. So we dredge this. We're going to take a hit from this. But I think we need to do that. This is a very good tempo. Oh, it's a Force of Negation as well. Oh, dear. Our number has well and truly been punched here. Yikes. I don't believe we can win this game now. We had to spend 2 turns setting up, and that's just too much in Legacy right now. And the fact that our setup got cancelled as well was just way too much. Yep, so they're flipping their Tamiyo. Playing another one. Alright, well, we'll keep playing the spells we have for a couple of turns until we die. Say its name. What have you got for me? I can bring back Altanak, but that's not really what we're about here. I can bring back a Grist, but we won't have any mana to cast it. So I think we're bringing back a... Trying to work out if the Catacombs is better than the Urborg. The Urborg saves us life, which is actually kind of a big deal here. We can make some Death Touch guys, but they can just jump their frog. It might end up being where our main win condition is going to be our opponent casts Doomsday, we play Opposition Agent, they lose the game. Alright, so we are a turn behind. We could have played out this Urborg as well, but we are dead to this next turn. This won't do anything. We don't have it. We're just dead here. I'll save our opponent the time of making the pile because they have this game well and truly sewn up. Yeah, missing that land drop on that turn 3 was on that turn 2 was really annoying. If we'd have had the land drop, we could have played the Opposition Agent and been ahead on board and start pressuring stuff. And then like our next turn when we're trying to do loam stuff, whatever, we're in a good spot. Alternatively, what we could do on that turn is fire off a Wasteland and then we loam back the Wasteland and some other stuff, and we can play the Wasteland and take out their thing. Like, we had a lot of good options, but we didn't quite get there, unfortunately. And as soon as this deck is an inch in front, it's a mile in front. All right, let's go to round 3. Okay, we have Entomb for Life from the Loam. We have Say Its Name to dig us a little bit. I think we'll keep this one, see how it feels. So our Entomb might well get counterspelled here. I don't mind it if it does. If our opponent wants to pick up their Land with a Daze or something, I don't hate that. Trade 1 for 1 and set them back a turn when we need some setup time. An Ether Vial. Okay. So our opponent is on some sort of Yorion Vial deck. Probably the Jeskai Vial deck that we saw win a challenge a little while back. What do we want to get here? It probably is just the Life from the Loam, isn't it? Am I dredging this now? Alright, let's Wasteland. We have the answer to this Ether Vial in the future as well. I imagine this Float Strand is getting a basic, since we've shown them Life from the Loam Wasteland lock. There it is. Another Ether Vial. Are we casting Say Its Name here? Are we drawing a card? I think we're just drawing a regular card. Formless Genesis. We could hit this Ether Vial. Doesn't really achieve that much. I think we need to do our own game plan here. It doesn't really delay them that much because they get the land out of it. Apparently it's just reading this one. We already have another Wasteland hand. I get this Verdant Catacombs. So the thing about Say Its Name is it can also find you a Grist because it's a creature when it's in the bin. So I do like the synergy there. That's why I'm running 4 of them. Also, I am a big Grist fan. Maybe we'll play a matchup where we get to leverage something like that. This could be the matchup. This is probably going to be a relatively slow and somewhat grindy matchup. And they missed a land. Okay, so now hitting the Vial feels a lot more useful. Sure, let's just dredge this now. A Raven's Crime. And our opponent doesn't have... How many cards? They've got 5 cards in hand. So we can just strip their hand, or we can take out this Ether Vial first. I think we take out the Ether Vial first. And then that means we're probably playing... We need a black mana for our Raven's Crime. So that's Wasteland. Boseiju using the Wasteland. That didn't tap anything on 1. What we got here? Like an Ajani, a Felia. Okay, that's fine. Get rid of this Underground Mortuary. And Raven's Crime them. Cryptic Code. Yeah, it does look a lot like the Jeskai Vial deck. We take 2. They're going to blink their Vial to grow their creature or not. They decided not to grow the creature. Understandable. We don't have a Life from the Loam to dredge here, so we're just going to draw a regular card. So we get back Boseiju, Underground Mortuary, and Wasteland here. Is that true? Or are we just going to make a big guy? How many lands we got? We've got 3 lands. We can make a 4/4 guy here. That seems pretty good, doesn't it? Let's crack this. We'll go and get a forest, I think. Just make a 4/4 Death Toucher. And then we get to do this every turn from now. Oh, they're just going to blink it with Felia, aren't they? What am I doing? This does mean the Felia doesn't get to blink any of their stuff of value. Yep, there goes our Shapeshifter token. So we have to make 2 of these for them to count. It does mean our opponent doesn't get to put in a Recruiter and blink it, though. So we might be pressured into continually making the Formless Genesis so that our opponent doesn't get to keep flickering whatever they want. Yeah, the other line we had that turn was to just Raven's Crime their hand a bunch. A Caracas, okay. Yeah, that was a loose turn. Okay, let's get back. Boseiju, Verdant Catacombs, Wasteland. Let's Raven's Crime our opponent. Raven's Crime our opponent. And then we can pull out another land with the Verdant Catacombs. Might have been better if we kept the Wasteland and just hit the Caracas there. But our opponent already has the Vial on 3, so they're kind of doing the things they want to do anyway. This is going to be the scary turn. If they put in a 3-drop here. A Flicker Wisp. Okay, that's not so bad. I'm targeting our Verdant Catacombs, alright. I'll crack it, I guess. Let's get Underground Mortuary. Worm Harvest. Love to see one of those. You can start Worm Harvesting next turn. Doesn't help with a Flicker Wisp, but it's something. A Skyclave with no targets. We can also double Formless Genesis next turn as well. Yeah, they can just blink the Skyclave to grow the failure here. We've got 1 card in hand, so we're going to have to basically just beat the board is the situation we're in. Yes, I'll draw a life from Loam. So we want to get Wasteland, Barren Moor probably, and Swamp is fine. Okay, so our opponent's got 1 card in hand, so I think we want to remove that last card. So let's Raven's Crime our opponent first. Then we get rid of the Barren Moor. Have they got a 4-drop? They do have a 4-drop. Wowzers, trousers. A Flicker Wisp. Okay. That's 6 power in the sky. That's pretty bad news. So if we play the Formless Genesis now, it stops them flickering something, but they'll flicker our guy and kill us. If we can waste down the Caracas, that doesn't really matter very much. Can't get any creatures to block this. No, I think we're done. I think the turn we played the Formless Genesis token was just no good for us there. It basically stopped 1 counter on a failure when we could have just rinsed their hand. I think that was a mistake on our part. Alright, Fatal Pushes in, Assassin's Trophies in, Vengeful Pharaoh in. Do I want the opposition agents to stop Recruiter of the Guard? They have 4 Recruiter of the Guard. Is it worth boarding in these? They also probably have 4 Stoneforge Mystic. This is a lot of cards to board in. We don't want Vexing Bauble. We do want Haywire Mite. We don't want Ghost Vacuum. We like all of our lands here, so they're probably staying, which then leaves us in a really awkward spot. So let's put these up here for now. We've made room for 2 cards, so that's the 2 Fatal Pushes. That's a given. I think Worm Harvest is actively good here. We probably go slightly down on graveyard stuff, which means we're probably getting rid of at least 1 Entomb, which gets us an Assassin's Trophy, and maybe get rid of 1 Life from Loam, that gets us another Assassin's Trophy. And then if we want the 3rd Assassin's Trophy, we're probably cutting like Entomb or Mox Diamond. Mox Diamond is really bad into like failure stuff, like Flicker Wisp, sorry, because that can blink it. I can't remember if failure can blink it actually. Yeah, failure can blink any non-land permanent. So I think we take out a Mox Diamond to get another Assassin's Trophy. And we still have a decent chunk of stuff. I would like to have the Vengeful Pharaoh, but we'd be cutting an Entomb for it, and that's the thing we're being Entombing for. So that doesn't seem great to me. So I think we're just going to roll with some removal spells. Okay, I'll keep this. We can begin the game with the Life from the Loam already running, which is quite nice. And we can do double loaming with Barren Moor if we need to just really grind. And we have Liliana with infinite stuff to discard because of our Loam. This can also offer a little bit of board control, though they have a lot of flash creatures. A Ghost Vacuum. Alright, you're going to use that immediately. Take out our Loam. I suspect the answer is yes. Okay, so we're not doing that anymore. Understood. So we can't play our Liliana this turn. We could play this Barren Moor. So we could play this tapped. We could play out a Haywire Mite here. Just have that up to blow up a Ghost Vacuum. I'd rather blow up something like an Aether Vial or a Cauldra Complete because it's an exile. So we can actually take out the Cauldra. We'll see what our opponent does. Alright, there's an Aether Vial. Would love to blow that up. Get out of here, Aether Vial. Right, so now we're in Liliana of the Veil time. I have to make a decision here whether I want the Maze of Ith or the Wasteland. I think I want the Maze of Ith more than the Wasteland. We have more Wastelands in our deck. Let's play this Maze of Ith out. Because this gives us a little bit of defense. Our opponent's going to fetch basics most of the time anyway. Sure, you can keep vacuuming. It's very unlikely this Ghost Vacuum does anything beyond taking that Life from the Loam out, really. And that Life from the Loam already replaced itself. And made our Mox Diamond card neutral as well. So it already did some work. They did get a non-basic though, so more Wastelands will be good. We do have an Assassin's Trophy. If we need to start doing Loam stuff, we can take out the Ghost Vacuum if we draw another Loam. But we'll just wait and see what we want to do with that. Liliana, the third path. So we're going to lose our poor little Mox Diamond. Grist the Hunger Tide. Would have loved to put this into play. I think we're just going to take our opponent's only creature there and hold up the Assassin's Trophy. They can now put a Liliana underneath the Ghost Vacuum, which might be useful down the stretch. But like I said, we have an Assassin's Trophy. We can blow up the next thing that we have to care about. Alright, I've taken out a Haywire Mite instead. That's, again, another creature that's perfectly fine to get back off of Ghost Vacuum. No play for our opponent. Okay. Land. We did draw a land. So, do I want the value off of this Assassin's Trophy? That is the question here. I think we do. I think we're in a situation where we do need to make sure we leverage that value. Especially if we're taking up with Grist, we probably want to take out this Ghost Vacuum soon. And we can be hellbent quite easily here. Okay, Ophelia, we can Maze of Ith that. We can block it with an Insect Token. We have options. They can block. They can get rid of the Insect Token on attacks. But we still have the Maze. Right, attacking the... Yep. A Mother of Runes. Okay, that's something I would very much like to... Stoneforge Mystic as well. Okay, with enough cards in hand that they won't lose it immediately to the... Yeah, they won't lose it immediately to the Liliana Plus. So we can make a construct, use the construct and the Grist to blow this up. Then we plus the Liliana and we Wasteland them here. That's probably the highest value play, isn't it? And that's better than using this Assassin's Trophy. If we sequence that differently, so now they're going to discard the Calder from their hand. I'm just thinking if we sequence that differently, might they discard the other card? Possibly. Okay, so they can get 1 damage in if they want to here. China Prince is probably scrying at this point, I would imagine. Yeah, there's a scry too. 1 top, 1 bottom. Okay. There's something useful coming along. And they get to blink this with Felia, which then grows Felia. Which is pretty tasty. We get Prince back again. Another Grist. So if we make the token, our opponent stops... they stop getting to do this. Alternatively, we plus this Grist, then we minus this Grist. That looks pretty good to me. A Mox Diamond. I don't really want to draw one, so we'll just put this straight into the graveyard. So plus this. Cast this. Keep this one. We will sacrifice this. Kill the Felia. So we can plus for no value here, apart from making this tougher. Or we can minus, take out one of their guys, and then that leaves them with choosing to kill one of our Planeswalkers here. Provided they can deal with our Maze of Ith. So I think we're just going to try and hope that they don't have a way of dealing with our Maze of Ith. This reminds me of playing the old Death Cloud decks and Extended a long time ago. Love that deck. Yeah, you keep Ghost Vacuum in. There's the Wasteland. Yeah, so this is what I said. They probably kept that on top. Right, so we lose our Grist, I imagine, here. Our opponent agrees. That's a pretty fine top deck right there. We're going to lose the Liliana, but it's going to save us a couple of life. And then we're going to grind a few Saga constructs. And if we can find a land for a potential Mox Diamond, then we can have 3/3s, which can check a lot of the creatures in their deck. Like all these Charming Princes and stuff like that. And Felia's on the first attack. Yeah, our opponent got to sit there with an engine with the Felia Charming Prince for a little bit. So they did pull ahead in that phase of the game, but we've kind of brought some stability back. It depends if they got a follow-up here. Goodbye, Liliana. You did reasonable work, I would say. So this could just be a Felia flashed in at end step. Could be what they're holding open for here. I would very much like to play another land here. Do we keep this for the Mox Diamond, though? I think that makes more sense, because then we have slightly bigger guys, and having slightly bigger guys is a big deal here. If we draw another land, we can choose which one we discard next turn. I think that's just the best value play we have. Alright. They're slowly building up to a big Ghost Vacuum. Yeah, so there's the Felia, like I said. So now they get to blink the Charming Prince, which grows the Felia, and it's somewhat obnoxious. Because that's now something that we don't get to block with, because the Felia can just take it out. That is certainly a problem for us. Also makes the Mox Diamond line a lot worse, because the Mox Diamond can just get blinked by the Failure and then have to be sacrificed. But we still make a token, we can draw a Grist, and that allows us to blow up the Failure, and then we get to sort of stabilize. Okay, I think we have to go and make a construct here. I think we have to go and get, if we get the Mox Diamond and make it so it stays in play by discarding our Bayou. If the Failure attacks, they can blink out the Mox Diamond, then they have a 3/3 against our 2/2s, so we can double block, and that's okay. If they phase out one of our tokens, we only have a 2/2, which can't block, so they're not going to phase out this Mox Diamond. But do we want? I don't really want to draw the Mox Diamond either. That's bad. It's a bad time for us right there. We can attack for 2 and definitely connect, because they're not going to trade the Charm Prince here, because that's part of their sort of card selection engine right now. Yeah, I just need my opponent to not have something for one turn when they're doing all the Failure stuff. So we're going to lose our construct here. So we had a choice there of soaking up 2 damage or having a little bit of damage to come back. They didn't grow their Failure here, they just want to put in more damage. They are getting pretty close to popping this Ghost Vacuum as well. A Cabal Pit, you say? That is something, isn't it? So we very much have Threshold over there. They can't take us off Threshold by removing 2 cards either. Right, they're just taking their own creatures here. This suggests to me that they have the 6 mana for the Ghost Vacuum now. And they get to put in Haywire Mite, Liliana, Flickerwisp, Failure. That's going to be pretty strong. Presumably looking at... How are we going to beat that? That's just too much. Do they have flying as well? 1/1 Spirit. No, okay, so they don't have flying automatically. Just take out Charm Prince. So they've got a Yorion they can play here to give themselves a 4/5 attacker, which is obviously quite large. I don't believe they're going to blink their Failure here. They're just going to leave the counters on it. It's just a 4/5 attacker. Not bad for a free Magic the Gathering card, because they did not have to worry about having to draw this. Companion is a pretty good mechanic. Pretty badly designed mechanic, but pretty powerful. Say its name. What do we have in our graveyard? So we can get back a Grist. That's probably the best thing we can get back here. But the problem is our opponent is going to attack us for 7. And then they're going to attack us for lethal. We can't block the Failure with a Grist token. They took out our Worm Harvest, so we can't make lots of guides if we were to have the mana. Yeah, our opponent just having the Ghost Vacuum for our Loam draw at the start really cut us off at the knees here. If they can activate the Ghost Vacuum, I think we're 100% dead. But we can draw a Assassin's Trophy and take out the Yorion, and that leaves us alive. I think you have to activate the Ghost Vacuum as a sorcery, yeah. So we'll find out now if they're going to be vacuuming us. There's a Tundra. You going to do it? I know you want to do it, opponent. I think if you do it, we scoop the game. So it's a pretty good play. Yeah, here we go. Well, at least we got killed by some spooky spirits, I suppose. Yeah, that was a bit rough. Like, I think if we just get to Dredge Life from the Loam for at least just 2 turns, I think we just absolutely run away with that game. But we did not get to go there. Game 1, I definitely made a misplay by making a guy when I could have tried to Raven's Cry in their hand, so that one is definitely on me. So I think the deck probably goes to Game 3 if we play that one correctly. But now we're going to go to match 4. No lands. Alright, we're going to have to mulligan this one. Okay. Surveil land into Say Its Name into Grist or Formless Genesis. We got some options here. What are we trying to get here? I think we probably put back the Boseiju for now. So I don't want to get cut off of black mana if they get Wastelanded or something. Just so we have access to both of our basics, or we have access to 2 black-green jewels. And either way, that's good for us. A Wasteland. Are we just going to snap it off and let our opponent cruise to advantage here? I feel a million miles behind, but our opponent didn't mulligan to 6. Let's just see if we can strip out their lands. Because the Yatamio doesn't provide advantage until they get the mana to start cracking the clues. So if we can deny them that mana, then maybe that's alright for us. Okay, second main phase land, sure. Ponder. So all we really lost by doing this was giving our opponent a clue token. But the upside is they don't make any spells that turn, and then we become miles ahead. A Mox Diamond. Pretty good, isn't it? Let's play a Mox Diamond. Are we getting rid of this? I think we're getting rid of probably the Verdant Catacombs here. I think we get Bayou still. We'll cast a Say Its Name. See if we can dig up something exciting from the graveyard. Wasteland, Wasteland, Verdant Catacombs. Right, we'll just take this Wasteland, please. So next time we can either Formless Genesis or we can Wasteland our opponent. We could Grist and plus. I guess we have to see what our opponent's up to. If they don't play a land, then we're probably on the Wasteland train. That does slow us down from doing anything else. Right, they have a land, so we're probably on casting a 3-drop of some description. It's probably Urza Saga into... Oh, does that change anything here? 1, 2, 3 lands over there. So we could Wasteland our opponent, then Mox Diamond, then do a big Formless Genesis. I think I just like getting the Saga in. This doesn't play very well in today's, unless we're willing to give up the Wasteland here. We're probably going to want this Mox Diamond anyway for the Urza Saga taking next turn. I think we may as well play... What are we playing here though? Are we playing the Grist or are we playing the Genesis? So we can get a 4-power guy here, or we can just start doing Grist stuff. I think Grist is the more objectively powerful Magic the Gathering card. So let's try and do that. Playing around days. And then we get to start cranking out some Saga tokens, which game 1 should be pretty decent. Now, we don't know if our opponent is a Doomsday deck or if they're just blue-black tempo. Wasteland, that can take out our Saga. It's just another card for this Genesis in our hand. A Nile Spellbomb. Okay, so they are blue-black tempo. The Doomsday deck cannot fit that card in. If we cast this Genesis with it on the stack, they're going to remove our graveyard. So that's really awkward. We are paying for the sins of blue-black Reanimator here. Are we trying to kill their Tamiyo when they have potential Brainstorm? We could cast this Formless Genesis. And if they crack the Spellbomb, then we know it's safe to kill this with the Grist. I think whatever we do here, it begins with Insect Token attacking for 1. Right, I think we go for this Genesis. I'm going to crack the Spellbomb, so this doesn't do anything. If they draw the card with the Spellbomb, then we get to Grist kill their Tamiyo. Oh wow, we just got a 6/6. That was very unexpected. A Boseiju. We don't really want that. So what this means is that our opponent has the Brainstorm, and they're valuing keeping their Tamiyo around more than stopping us getting this 6/6. That's the reason that play makes sense, because I was trying to bait this out so that we could play around a Brainstorm. So this clearly just means our opponent is keeping the Tamiyo safe, which means we want to plus the Grist in that situation. I think we're also supposed to plus the Grist before we play the Underground Mortuary. Yeah, so now that the Grist isn't able to do its thing, they're happy to just sue us. They know we don't have any cards in hand. But we do have a massive Death Touch body. So they have the ability to crack a clue and an Spellbomb draw a card. They're fail pushing our token. Okay. Well, that did cost us a card, so it's not like it's like a free token we had lying around. Alright, so they're going to bomb us now. Keeping up the Brainstorm off of the fetch land. Surprised they don't just Brainstorm here if they have it though, because that gives them the ability to flip the Tamiyo and just stop these from dealing damage. I think step 1 is probably going to be Say Its Name. An Urza Saga. Not a bad one to find. We've got Raven's Crime in there. I've got 3 cards in hand. I think I would rather have this Urza Saga running. I think we try and kill the Tamiyo now. They're going to save it with the Brainstorm. And that's unfortunate. But this means they don't get to Brainstorm with a fetch land. Yep, so here it is, the thing that we knew was happening. It was a very telegraphed play. But I think at this stage it's fine to do that and weaken the power of this Brainstorm somewhat. Okay, so now we're going to try and get over the finish line with some Urza Saga beats alongside some Raven's Crime action. Right, so we're not going to be doing the Raven's Crime stuff, the Urza Saga stuff just yet. Right, they're plussing. We can kill the Tamiyo if we want to with the Grist minus. Losing our Insect token. It depends what our opponent commits to the board here. Now, stripping our opponent's hand feels bad in the face of all these clue tokens. I won't lie. Okay, I think we're killing the Tamiyo this turn. I think we're going to get back our 2 lands. If we minus the Grist and they have a removal spell, that is really bad for us here. We definitely want this as a Saga, so we'll get that in there. What does the Cabal Pit do for us here? Not a great deal. Our opponent's got us in such a bind. So we could Raven's Crime one of the cards away from their hand. But if they have a removal spell, then the Grist doesn't get to kill the Tamiyo. We need to have an additional creature in play first. So I think we have to plus the Grist here. Which means we should have done this before we did the Life from Loaming, really. Yeah, we would have got 1 extra card in our hand if we did it differently. Oh dear. Lots of things to think about here with this deck. A Brazen Borrower. Yeah, so they have the removal spell for an insect token. Now they can crash into Grist for 3, so we don't get to minus the Grist. Psychic Frog. Yep, that's obviously an issue for us. We might be able to do some sort of Cabal Pit nonsense. It's a long old grindy game, this one. It's a Brainstorm as well, why not? Are we dredging Life from the Loam? I think we are. So we can make some big Death Touch creatures. So if we cast Life from the Loam here. So next turn, this Grist has to be able to stop the Tamiyo. Or we need an Urza Saga construct that stops Tamiyo. So I think we're getting back 2 lands here. Grist can't do anything. Why didn't we plus this first? That's such a loose play again. We're gonna mill a land now that we could have got earlier. Just playing horribly. Okay, we didn't mill a land at least. So this makes a construct. The Grist is going to die. I don't think we can save the Grist. We could play a land out to dredge Life from the Loam again. Does that necessarily help us? Our opponent's got 1 card in hand. We can take that 1 card. Okay, we play this Cabal Pit. And then... So, the issue here is, if we Raven's Crime our opponent, and they minus... And they sacrifice... They discard it to put a counter on Psychic Frog. We can then Cabal Pit this. But then we don't have the ability to Urza Saga and defeat the Tamiyo. So we can't actually do that. That doesn't work for us. Is there anything we can dredge that would make a difference here? I don't think so. We can just take that 1 card out of our opponent's hand, which just puts a counter on the Psychic Frog. Is that what I want to do? I think that's fine. Oh, Psychic Frog. Why are you so messed up as a magic card? So they're discarding the card here. What do we get out of them? Another Psychic Frog. So if we kill this, we don't get to kill their... Or even attempt to kill their Tamiyo. And we can't live in the world where we don't get to kill their Tamiyo. Because we can't just let them draw 8 cards. Or sorry, not 8 cards, 20 cards. Attacking with our 0/1s into their 2/3 seems like a bad play to me. So I will hold them back at home. We have to take 1 damage from this Cabal Pit. But we're not really losing this on the axis of life right now. We're losing it on the axis of our opponent having access to lots of cards. Yep, they're giving it flying. So they have to attack both of them at Grist here. Yep, so there's no way we can save the Grist. We need to hope our opponent doesn't have a removal spell. Sure, why not draw an extra card? Alright, Tamiyo is plussing. Brainstorm, yeah, that's a good card. We don't have anything like Lava Spur Boots. It should be nice to jam on a creature and then get them. Okay, a Tamiyo that can block their other Tamiyo. Block for their other Tamiyo. This means I don't think we can afford to dredge Life from the Loam here. We need a real card. So we need to deal with this Tamiyo. So we make another construct token. That doesn't really help us out here. If we Cabal Pit this Tamiyo, cast Life from the Loam, then Cabal Pit the Tamiyo again, that works. Which means we need to float mana off of this one. Do I want a Mox Diamond here? I think that probably helps a little bit. So we Cabal Pit here, tap in black. Then we cycle the Barren Moor. Get back to Life from the Loam. Cast his Life from the Loam. Get back Urza Saga, Cabal Pit, and probably Barren Moor. We can play this Cabal Pit out. We can kill their creature. This is where they just have a removal spell and we lose anyway. We go attacks, and hopefully our construct can sail through and kill the Tamiyo. Or not kill the Tamiyo, but do enough damage so it doesn't pop. Which is good enough for now. How many say its names have we got in here? Just the 1. Okay. I do want to do the big insect thing at some point. Yep. Why not draw more cards, opponent? Plus an Atamio. Ponder. Maybe we're just going to like turbo Barren Moor our way to Altanak. It's only a thing we're allowed to attempt. We don't get to block this, we just take a hit. Another Tamio. Alright, we're doing this whole nonsense again, are we? And a Psychic Frog. Okay, that is a bit of a different proposition. We don't get to double Cabal Pit anymore. Okay, there's a say its name in there now, so we just need to find one more. I think we're going to lose this one. Let's go and get back. Right, green and black. So if we need to defeat this Tamio. How are we going to do that? Probably have to draw a regular card here. A Ghost Vacuum. Does that do anything here? I don't think it does. What can we draw that actually lets us kill this Tamio? I don't think we have anything, and we can't really beat the Psychic Frogs either. Okay, so we can put Altanak into play. Okay, so he did the thing. It's just not a very good thing. The problem is, they draw half their library. Psychic Frog flies, and then they can just pitch all the cards, and then we lose. So I'm not really sure how we're supposed to get through this one. I guess we force a block here. Oh, these blue-black cards are pretty messed up. Under the Bust of the Tamio, sure. Alright, so now they're drawing a whole bunch of cards. So they got 16 cards. So they can do 16 additional damage by jumping a frog here. Alright, they're just going to load all the cards in there. Sure. Oh dear, oh dear. Alright, Assassin's Trophy, Pithing Needle. I don't know how I feel about Vengeful Pharaoh. Something I'm interested in, but I don't know if this is where I really want to be going for it. The Ghost Vacuum and the Haywire Mite aren't the most useful things here. Liliana is fine. The Genesis is fine. These are all fine. Probably need to trim on some graveyard hate, on some graveyard-based stuff. I've already got main deck graveyard hate. They're probably going to have more. It's a little bit terrifying. Maybe it's the Entomb that goes here. Okay, this is not a matchup where Lane on the Void is good enough. Like, it can stop the frog from jumping, but that's all it does, and they can still have a massive frog that beats most of our stuff in combat, so it's really problematic. Almost like Psychic Frog should cost more mana than 2. Don't know what the fair cost for it is. 3? You might be fair. It's still pretty good at 3 mana, to be honest. I don't like this one. We're going to mulligan this. Alright, this is more my sort of speed. I think we'll throw back one of these fetch lands. Probably want to get a basic land. The only problem with getting a basic land here is that it means that we don't get to cast a Liliana. So maybe we are just on... Maybe it's Wasteland. Vexing Bauble. Okay, yeah, I can buy that. Because our opponent probably has Harbinger of the Seas in their deck. We don't just want to get windmilled by that. So if we keep the other Verdant Catacombs, we get 2 Verdant Catacombs to get back off our first life from the Loam. But we have to pay some life in a grindy matchup. Maybe that's fine to do. Nether Goyf. Okay. So, Lane of the Void looking a little bit better. A Boseiju. Okay. Bayou. Pluto Delta. Goyf is still a 1-2. A Nile Spellbomb. So they're going to crack that immediately and draw a card. And attack for 2 with another Goyf. Sure. Yeah, once again, paying for the sins of blue-black reanimated decks. It's tough to play a slow, grindy graveyard deck these days. So we crack this. We go and get ourselves a basic forest. Cast Exploration. Put our land out. Get the Liliana down. Get rid of their creature. This would be a very good turn for our opponent to have Harbinger of the Seas. They did not. Okay. Any other threat here is still pretty good. Is it frog time? It's frog time. Oh dear. Not a big lover of being subjected to frog time. An Urza Saga. Okay, that can help in a while. We're plussing this anyway. Does that mean we are just nailing this now? So they can go and get an Underground Sea here, but then we can Wasteland that Underground Sea. It just means they have less lands in their deck, which might be a thing that they actually want. Oh, do we give them a free spell as well? Wowzers, trousers. So we're going to lose this Liliana next turn. Unless we Vexing Bauble and find a removal spell here. Did not find the removal spell. Goodbye, Liliana. Sure, why can't it draw a card when it deals combat damage to Planeswalkers? Another Psychic Frog. Oh dear. We're just getting frogged up. So if we cast, say, its name, if this resolves, we get a land to cast the Urza Saga, to activate the Urza Saga, sorry. Do any of these seem that useful right now? The 1 life, when our opponent can deal increments of 1 because of Psychic Frog, is a big deal on the Verdant Catacombs. We don't have a basic black source yet, so there is that. We could just play this Saga out, and then if we draw a land next time, we get to double Saga. It feels like we're just getting smashed up by Psychic Frog in more than one game today. More than one round, even. I don't think making a 1-1 here is helpful. I think we just have to let our opponent get all of these beautiful cards in their hand and just hope they don't do the things they need to do. Like maybe they've got counter magic that doesn't line up with our Sagas or something. Wasteland. Okay. They're going to hit this one. I would hit the other one, I think. Because hitting this one denies 1 construct and 1 tutor. Hitting this one denies 2 constructs and 1 tutor. Unless they're really, really worried about whatever we're going to be getting back off of the tutoring. Another Goif. Yeah, sure, 1 mana 5/6. A Loam isn't unhelpful. So if we cast Loam now, then we get to play 2 lands. Yeah, I think Loam is worth casting here. We'll get Saga, Barren Moor, Wasteland? No, Verdant Catacombs, Wasteland. You got Force of Negation to really put me in the dirt? No. So we can play 2 lands here. So we can make a construct, or we can play a Grist, lose our construct, kill another Goif. I think we're slightly better off doing more construct stuff. You'd probably have to kill a frog when the time comes. But maybe we can get a Pithing Needle off of a Saga. And then the Pithing Needle can name Psychic Frog, and then they can't jump, and then they actually have to fight. But yeah, we are not doing well here. Which is a phrase I've been saying a lot today. Alright, I'm giving the little one flying. Let's see if they do anything else when I activate this. Alright, they are responding by making their other creature fly. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So we have to block with the Nether Goif or die. Not a big fan of that. Alright, they didn't pump the frogs. No Wasteland. That's good news. Harbinger of the Seas. That's terrible news. That's double strip line. Oh dear, oh dear. Okay. So we don't get to tutor for the needle for the frogs. Oh, we drew the needle for the frogs. Does that make any difference here? We can needle the frogs, activate the Grist. We block these 2. We take 2, 3, plus 7. That's lethal. No, there's no way we win this game. Oh dear, oh dear. We are having a rough time. We are looking at the reverse trophy 2 days in a row trying to play spooky decks. Yikes. Alright, it's the final round. Let's lock in and try and get ourselves a win on the board. Alright, we're into the final round. We're playing a Yorion deck, which is a deck I think we might be able to win. So let's see if we can put the things together to make that happen. Yeah, I'll keep this one. We did put Altanak into play this league, though. That is something. So we can play our land that doesn't get wastelanded. Just go to our next turn and say its name. Fill our graveyard a little bit up for the old Life from the Loam. And then we can decide if we're playing Grist or if we're playing Life from the Loam or possibly the Formless Genesis, depending on what our opponent displays to us. Scalding Tarns. This could be the Jeskai Vial deck. I have to assume that's what it is, based on the information I have right now. Worm Harvest. Okay, let's say its name. We'll pop our graveyard up here. Would I like a Grist or an Urza Saga? I think I'll take the Urza Saga for now. Once we get this Worm Harvest up and running, we can go wide of like little guys pretty easily. If you've not seen Worm Harvest pop off, you haven't lived. It's good times. Architect of Will. Okay, with some kind of Cascade combo deck, I would imagine. It's going to be a weird matchup. They've got 3 types in graveyard already, so they're well on their way towards Delirium. Incubation. Okay, this gives them 5 types because this is an instant and a sorcery. Yep, you cycle that Street Wraith. So we could be looking for a Crashing Footfalls in the near future. A whole host of things. We can't wasteland at all here. So the correct play for us is probably just to make the Grist and start plussing. Which means we have to play out a black source. But we don't have a black source. So we don't get to do that. Which means... what is our play here? Not finding the black source is certainly awkward. I guess we are just playing out this as a Saga. We can't make a 0/0 here. Well, we can, but it doesn't feel like a thing I want to do. We could do like the value Life from the Loam here, just to get it in the bin. But I think I'm just going to hold up this Boseiju. Well, our opponent's shown us some artifact creatures. At least if they cast some sort of living end, we can blow up one of their creatures. A Blood-Braid Marauder. Well, here goes. So we're going to get our Grist back here, if it's a living end. It is a living end. At least our opponent's playing something spooky. Have to appreciate that much. We don't have a swamp, so Street Wraith isn't unblockable. That's something as well. So we can Boseiju one of these away in the end step. Get out of here, Architects of Will. Does get them some more mana. We've got Rafine's Tower. Let's plus the Grist. So if we play Mox Diamond, discard this Yavimaya. We activate the Mox Diamond for mana, Life from the Loam back, 3 lands. Then we can deploy an Urza Saga Construct still. Sounds good to me. Still no swamps either. Counterspell could be annoying here. I didn't have it. So I want to play the Yavimaya, I believe. Because the Boseiju has text on this board. And the Mortuary comes in untapped. Comes in tapped, so it doesn't work for us. Alright, so we're going to be doing a little bit of chump blocking. We get to make a 2/2, then becomes a 3/3, then a 4/4. And that's pretty solid. Now, if we're just mashing creatures at one another, I can make some pretty large ones. And I can recur this Urza Saga next turn with a Life from the Loam. We're pretty close to getting Worm Harvest to start doing some stuff. Obviously, we don't have any cards in our graveyard, but we need up to 5 mana, and then once we start loaming, should be good. Okay, Mystic Sanctuary. What are they putting on top? The incubation spells. This is going to dig them a little bit. Up the Beanstalk. Wasn't expecting to see that one. Our opponent's deck is pretty cool and wild. I don't really know what I can see from it from this point onwards. We might as well look at the cards I cascaded through. That was, it was just all the stuff you'd expect to see. Like the Well of the Forgotten and stuff. Yeah. Okay. What are we up to here, opponent? Are you attacking? They must be here, right? Probably just the Street Wraith and the Architects. Coming with a Marauder. That Grist with all of them. Let's make a guy. Block here. Do I want our Grist to live or not? How important is it to us to have this Grist versus having bigger creatures? I think soaking up 6 damage is worthwhile when we've got another Grist ready to go in our hand. Incubation. Alright, what is this card? 7 mana. Costs 1 less for each card in your graveyard. Enters any number of target opponents. Each discard a card for each of those opponents who didn't discard a card with mana value 4 or greater to draw a card. Okay. We're in for a long grindy one here, so I need to be aware of our clock. Yes, I'll raise right from the Loam. No lands though. Am I wastestanding my opponent here? Probably not. But it's free to hold that up, I think. So what do we get? Probably the Ghost Vacuum. Start vacuuming our opponent's things away. Do I want to cast a Life from the Loam this turn for 1 card? Or am I just holding up this Boseiju? Or am I playing the Boseiju, playing the Grist, plussing the Grist? A lot of options. Is this game about more creatures? If it is about more creatures, we need to Life from the Loam back the Saga. Alternatively, we can go into a different form of creatures by trying to get loads and loads of Worm Harvest stuff going. I do quite like Grist here, though. Do you think Grist is going to resolve is a different question. Okay, we can play this Mortuary, can Surveil 1, and then we can get rid of their Beanstalk. We're not a million miles away from activating a Ghost Vacuum either. We've got a lot of lands here. So if we can strip out all these creatures, we can then start getting ourselves ahead with making loads of little spirits, which is very Halloween themed. A Cabal Pit, that is a land. All lands go into the graveyard here. Alright, let's just take out this card advantage engine, I think. We can work on doing some Wasteland Loam stuff if we want to. I think it's more important to control the board here. Make sure we have enough creatures that we're not dying to whatever our opponents do. I'm not attacking with this construct. We're on blocks for now. We need to just run away with this game, grinding our opponent out. We have 3 lands in our graveyard, so we can make 3 1/1s with Worm Harvest. Maybe we can increase that number. 5 mana for 3 1/1s doesn't feel great, so we need to get some more lands in there. We're going to see that guy that makes us discard a card, because we'll discard this Worm Harvest if we do, and that's fine. It's the card I've never seen before. It's a 4/2. I'm more than happy to discard this card I want in my graveyard. It's going to take a long time to grind our opponent with Wastelands here, which is why I'm not really into it. We have a swamp now because of this Underground Mortuary, which is a little bit annoying. But we can wasteland our own swamp if we need to. Okay, once upon a time for our opponent. A Bloodbraid Marauder. That's more cascading if they want it. Doesn't seem great into the Ghost Vacuum though. It's Architects of Will. We don't have a Loam in the graveyard, so we're not dredging this turn. An Urborg. Not quite where I want to be, is it? Here we go. 1-2 gets us 3 lands back. Play a land, play a Grist, wasteland our own Underground Mortuary, block, blow our opponent out. So I want to get this as a Saga up and running. Let's just play that one out. Let's go for a Grist. We can exile one of our Grists as well so that we can get back a Grist off of a Ghost Vacuum at some point. Alright, the Force of Will. Sure. We still have the ability to try and blow our opponent out with this Wasteland. We can block the Street Wraith. We have black sources in hand, so it's not like we're going to be cut off of black spells. Underground Sea from our opponent. Or if they see the line of us wasting our own land. They might not have seen it, I don't know. Let's take out our own swamp here. Let's block here and here. So if our opponent's trying to Bloodbraid Marauder again. Into the wild. Okay, so we've got a Yorion in hand. He's going to cast the Yorion. Yes, they are. And they're going to blink their guys and gain some card advantage. So Yorion is a little bit of a problem. So our opponent gets to draw a card here. Formless Genesis. So I think we'll take out another Architects of Will. Has an ETB that's useful. Our Dredging Life from the Loam here? I think so. So if we kill their Strix, then we can attack. And then they can't really block here if we attack like this. Because they can be 5/5s at instant speed when I make another construct. I'm very into making another construct here. Alright, so our opponent's going for a line where they do a living end. That must be what's happening here. Okay, so we can take out the Baleful Strix here. That's the best one of these to bring back as a 1/1, I think. Or we could take out the Yorion. What is this guy? He's an enchantment creature. That's all that matters. We get to blow him up with Boseiju. We've got 3 minutes ahead of our opponent's clock, and this is only game 1. Our opponent's deck is really sweet. Lots of weird stuff going on. Love to see it. Interesting they didn't just cast that as a big creature. It means they're probably just raffing the board here. Do I want to stop this Hollow Marauder? That draws an extra card. It's a 4/2. It's probably the flyer. It probably has to be the Yorion that goes here. Because that's just too much value. I wonder how many living ends they have in their deck. Oh, Yorion decks? They might have the full 4. Alright, what else we got here? Troll of Khazad-dûm, Ripples of Undeath, Emperor of Bones. It's just a who's who of cool stuff, really. Now, our opponent's playing a really sweet, spooky deck. Maybe we could have played this. I have to choose which Grist. Can't I just keep them all? Just one time. Would I like to discard this Life from the Loam? Yes, I would. So we don't have any swamps. We don't have to worry about this for a few turns. Oh no. Boggart Trawler. Ah. Yikes. Don't know how our opponent's fitting that in their 5-colour deck, but that is quite the blowout. Yikes indeed. Okay, we have this covered, but we might be dead before then. Okay, I clicked through and didn't float mana. That's a problem. We'll make a guy. So this can blow up the Overlord. It can block and blow up the Overlord. I think we are digging here. We should have had one more mana or a construct here. Okay, we'll take the Saga back. Play this one out. And we're just making a 1/1 here. This Grist is not going to be long for this world, unfortunately. How much damage are you taking here? 3, 6, 9. 3, 6, 9. 10. But then we gain 2. Tricky stuff. That Boggart Trawler was brutal. I'm just going to make a big Worm Harvest. They're making another one of these annoying guys. Sure. Annoying guys annoying. They have a Grist of their very own. And they put the Grist in their hand. We don't get a window to do this. It mills and then you choose a card in one activation. So we could take out one of the existing things in there. But there isn't really anything that they can take. So, Wail of the Forgotten. Goodbye. Discard a card. I want to discard this insect token, but we can't. I guess we'll discard this Urborg. That is a Grist. They can use this Grist to kill our Grist. Honestly, don't mind if they do that. Sure. We're targeting our Haywire Mite. Okay, we'll get rid of the one that's coming down sooner. So we go up to 13. We take 3, 6, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So that is lethal here, isn't it? Alright, we've got a little bit of time ahead of our opponent, so we're going to let the clock burn down on this one. Make our opponent be rushed in games 2 and 3. Fancy having that one old Boggart Bob. This guy, Boggart Trawler. Oh dear. Well, we tried hard there. We do have leyline, so this is definitely a leyline matchup. So we've got that going for us. How much other removal and graveyard hate do we want here? Obstacle Agent doesn't work against what they got going there. Removal is also interesting to us. Vexing Bauble just stops their combo entirely, so that's nice. Haywire Mite has lots of options to kill here, so that's nice. Honestly, I think our deck looks pretty reasonable here. Maybe the Liliana is a bit weird because they're going kind of wider. I like the Worm Harvest, but it is a touch slow. Maybe we'll board out one Formless Genesis. We've had it a lot of times be a dead card. What do we want here? Ith useful. How big into the Entombs are we? Maybe we can trim an Entomb to fit in this ley line. If our opponent's got ley lines, we need these Assassin's Trophies, is the problem. So we're probably having to slow things down a touch. I don't know if we can board out one of the Say Its names. It's obviously a weak card, but if we're boarding them out, it becomes a lot less likely we get to put Altanak in at any point. Maybe try out one Grist. This is the OOGIE BOOGIE of our deck, though, but let's try something like this. No, that can't be right. Is it a Formless Genesis? Maybe it is a Formless Genesis. Sorry, I did say I wouldn't board them out, but I don't think we're supposed to have that many in our deck. Okay, we can keep this. We can do Urza Saga stuff from turn 2 onwards. It can also get us some hatred for our opponent's bits and pieces. Do I want to play out this Mox Diamond right now? I don't think I do. I don't want to open myself up to some kind of Force of Vigor shenanigans. Undercity Sewers, sure. Like, we can also Wasteland lock our opponent quite easily because they're like a 4-5 card deck. They left a card on top. Would I like to have an Urza Saga token or a Grist the Hunger Tide playing here? Right, Mox Diamond pitching the Barren Moor. I think we're just going to make constructs. We can get Vexing Bauble. That just stops Doomsday in its tracks. Sorry, Living End. Assassin's Trophy. Yes, we can go and get an Underground. No, we can't. It has to be a basic here, doesn't it? Probably Swamp is best. Right, so we didn't get the Vexing Bauble, but we do get a 2-2. Wasteland is very much what I'm interested in here. So we place one out. We'll cast Grist, playing around days. And then, plus the Grist, Wasteland our opponent's Black Source, I think, is probably the better one. Bash for 2. We're just doing rock gaming right now. Worm Harvest is definitely going to do some work. This game, I can feel it in my bones. Alright, Swamp Cycling. Badlands, yep. No, Tropical Islands, Badlands. Alright, just a Mystic Sanctuary tapped. Let's mill a card from our deck. Let's bash for 3. Our opponent has shown us basics, so we know this Boseiju won't do the most. This also is any basic land type, isn't it? So that's not going to be the most useful here. So probably just playing out the Cabal Pit. I don't really want to be Raven's Criming because that could end up helping our opponent in a weird way. And then next turn we can just make 4 1/1s as well as the Grist. And at any point we get the Loam going, we should be able to outvalue what our opponent's doing. Sure, that's a guy. Do we need to Boseiju this guy now? That is the question. Right, so they milled a load of cards there. There's an Emperor of Bones, a Troll of Khazad-dûm. I don't think I need to Boseiju this right now. A Barren Moor. Let's mill. If we find a life from the Loam, we can Barren Moor, get it back. We did not. Okay. Let's bash. Do I want to cycle Barren Moor here? Or do I want to play it and just make sure we have 5 mana for a Worm Harvest? Which of those lines seems better? If we cycle the Barren Moor and hit a bunch of things, it becomes good. So I think we are going to cycle this. We have a lot of land in our deck, so alright, that is an excellent draw. Alright, so they have to Force of Will this. Pitching Wear the Forgotten. They have 4 cards in hand. I could strip half of the cards in their hand, but they might be creatures. So that's a little bit ugly for us. So I think we just do it. So we don't want to Boseiju this if they're going to be living ending anyway. We don't want to worm harvest until after the living end. Incubation. Ripples of Undeath. Is that a thing I want to interact with? I don't think it is. Altanak. So that's a creature we can bring back. Our opponent's got 2 cards in hand. We could take out both the cards in their hand. Let's try and take out both the cards in their hand. We've still got Altanak to... Okay, they didn't have it. Okay. They've got 3 looks here. Force of Will, Scrublands, Tiger. None of those do it. They do still get their draw for the turn. But they can't really afford to pay the 3 life here. They would pay the 3 life for the guy. Alright. We got a game win. I think I do want this Coffin Purge. I'm a little bit scared of some things our opponent can do. Now we can Entomb for an Altanak in response to them comboing, which is nice. What are we trimming if we want to put this Coffin Purge in? It's not an easy answer, is it? It could be a say its name. We can use Entomb as the 4th copy. And the fact that Altanak is just a nice thing that we can cast, that we can activate anyway, is pretty fine. Alright, we'll try like this with a little bit of extra graveyard hate, because I don't want to get blown out by scary living end stuff. At least we're having a nice spooky one today. Our opponent is very much on the spooky train. So what does our hand do? It's kind of slow. I think we need something better. Give me one of those ley lines. There it is. Ley line and Ghost Vacuum. Sign me right up. So we're probably pitching the Barren Moor here. Do I even need this Ghost Vacuum if I have... If I have the ley line, do we need the Ghost Vacuum? Our opponent's shown us graveyard stuff. How are we losing this game? It's if our opponent does graveyard stuff, right? So let's just be super duper extra safe. The Ghost Vacuum does pump our Urza Saga constructs as well. Okay, so let's play Mox Diamond. Spin off this swamp. The reason we do that is so that we still have the green source if something happens to this Life from Loam, like a Force of Negation. Alright. We're starting to do our thing. We can make some constructs next turn. Why is it whenever you play any deck with like Urza Saga as a backup plan, it so often becomes the main plan? It's a tough time from Life from Loam decks in Legacy at the moment. But we're trying our best. Our mana is spoken for next turn, so we don't need to dredge Life from Loam. Well, we don't have that choice anyway. I'll just play out the swamp. And we're ready to settle into some Urza Saga gaming. We've got Vexing Bauble, which stops their counter magic. Also stops their living end. A ley line binding, you say? Okay. I'm going to take out our ley line. I think we're just going to make pressure here, and then we can get rid of this later. Another Urza Saga, not the worst thing to see here. So I think I'd like a... We get the Haywire Mite here, and take out the ley line binding that way. Or we get a Vexing Bauble, and stops counter magic. I think I like stopping counter magic as well. Kind of does double duty here. Play Saga out. Ghost Vacuum. Look at my hench robotic boys. Baleful Strix. Sure. It's a good card. I will be windmilling one of my constructs into this. Force through 6 damage. So we have lethal next turn. We can cycle a Barren Moor if we want to. We've got Ghost Vacuum to take out that Baleful Strix. We have just multiple things that our opponent has to deal with. They can... No, they can't even living end for good measure here. So we have an answer to this, so that's fine. We also just have some rather large beefy boys. Right, playing that out means this can only get up to a 5 toughness creature. Putting your into hand. Okay, so they got 4, so this can now be a 5/6. These are going to be 6/6s on the swing back. So we're going to see a Psychic Frog chumping, which is something I love to see. So get rid of this Baleful Strix. I'll cycle this Barren Moor. Say its name. We did do the thing once. We lost that game, but we did do it. Grist the Hunger Tide, that's also fine here. Let's make a friend. Just get Haywire Mite. Splash with some enormous creatures. Puts our opponent to 2. So we can make a construct there instead. Sorry, not make a construct. We can kill their guy instead. Okay, so just discarding. Why are they discarding the living end? They can't discard this, so it's big enough. But yeah, so I'm happy to take this slightly grindier route because if we Assassin's Trophy, they do get a land. So if they have any sort of spell like a Fatal Push in their deck, I guess they can't have a Fatal Push because they're... No, yeah, we probably should have just tried to win the game that turn. I was having too much fun with my construct here. Alright, we got the match. You know what that means? We did not get the reverse trophy. Excellent. Alright, so we didn't have the best run here. We did make a misplay against the Yorion deck that might have cost us the game. We could have shredded their hand with the Raven's Crime. They still get to keep one or two cards from their hand. So maybe they just keep the relevant things and we still lose. But we definitely misplayed that one and we might have been able to take that to a game 3. But yeah, our deck did not perform amazingly well. Let's talk about the list. So obviously, you know, we're playing a bit of a fun one here today. So we weren't expecting the world. But at the moment, Life from the Loam strategies are very low down in what people are doing. So the top of the meta is obviously Blue-Black Reanimator, but then you have Blue-Black Tempo, Blue-Black Doomsday. You're seeing a pattern there, right? The 3 of the best decks in the format are all Blue-Black. Then you have Eldrazi, who's just going to come in and smash you up really quickly. You have Mono-Red Stompy, so loads and loads of Blood Moons, pretty bad for Loam strategies. Then you have Painter's Servant, which again has access to Blood Moons, has a nice like I win the game button in it. It's quite a tricky one. So out of like the top selection of decks, it's not a very safe time to be playing a slow, grindy Loam strategy, because your opponent is going to grind better than you with some of these decks, and then the decks they're not going to grind you slowly with, they're just going to absolutely run you over, like Doomsday and Eldrazi. So it is a bit of a tough ask. Also, I would say the Reanimator decks have started running Valvagoth, which is a 9/9 trample with wards, sacrifice 3 non-land permanents. So basically, we are going to struggle to deal with that unless we have our Liliana. So it is a tough time for even the competitive Loam decks. So you see lands and green-white depths are a very low share of the meta. Probably the lowest share of the meta I've ever seen them, to be honest, which is quite wild. Because, you know, those decks always seem pretty good. But right now, just the lowest share they've been. So we already were starting from a difficult point where we're trying to play a fun deck and we're basing it around an engine that is not good enough for Legacy right now, or, you know, is a very low represented engine in Legacy because it doesn't stack up very well against other people are doing. We managed to get away with a win. We, you know, maybe a 2-3 would have been about where this deck would be. It was definitely the odd loose play for me today. I'm sorry about that. A lot to get my head around on this one. Also, we had some new cards that we're testing today, so let's pull these new cards to the side. So we're trying this Say Its Name and Altanak. Say Its Name was like a bad impulse in green. But we see people casting Once Upon a Time. Obviously, you want to cast Once Upon a Time for free. But if you are casting it not for free, it's still, you know, fine. This doesn't dig as deep, but you get to put the cards in your graveyard, which is something that actively synergizes what we're trying to do. So it's fine. I think this is low power level for Legacy. Like we see Mulches and Winding Ways and stuff sometimes. This is low, but it's justifiable enough in what we're doing here. The Altanak, we only got it in play once, and then we died immediately. The ability to discard this is kind of cool. I like that. We didn't really get to leverage this very much. I think this card is fine, and I think, you know, this sort of package, is it the best thing to be doing in Legacy? No, but when the really, really broken stuff in Legacy, like Psychic Frog, get taken out of the meta, maybe this becomes something you can then slot back into your grindy decks. It's pretty cool. I like it, sort of thing. I do like having the Entomb, so we effectively have 6 copies of Say Its Name. So if we've got 2 in, we can just go, okay, we'll just Entomb, put the other one in, get ourselves a creature, boom. And that's pretty nice. So I like that. Obviously, Worm Harvest, not a new card, but not a card you see very often. There were situations today where it was okay, or it would have been okay if we cast it, sort of thing. But then there was other situations where it was blank. And that is kind of how Worm Harvest feels sometimes. 5 mana is so much, and the effect isn't that strong by Legacy standards. I think this was never a particularly high echelon Legacy card. It was very fringe, like a decade ago, something like that. And I think it's just been power crept out of the format now. Raven's Crime I still liked. Being able to Life from the Loam and then Raven's Crime someone's hand still feels like a fine thing to do. I think this is an acceptable thing to have in our deck. The other new card I want to talk about today, though, Formless Genesis, or Genesis, however you prefer to say that. This card did not really impress me today, but I think we had too many copies of it in our deck, so we were sometimes drawing it too early and we didn't want it. And we did happen to go into some awkward matchups, like the Failure just blinking these tokens out, which is a horrible thing to see happen, so that doesn't really work. It's a shame because it's channeling the Invasion of the Body Snatchers, which is a great piece of fiction. Nevertheless, I think Formless Genesis is actually fine. I would like to see this in some kind of Pox shell. I would also think this is something that the 8 mulch style decks, this feels like something that they could run. Although the only problem with the 8 mulch decks is they're trying to put all their lands into play, and we're trying to put them into the graveyard. So there is some tension if you're trying to play a bunch of lands out and then have this. So a Pox shell makes more sense because they tend not to have too many lands because they're constantly putting stuff from the graveyard and churning it. So maybe Green-Black's Pox with Formless Genesis is something that we could look forward to seeing on the channel. I'm definitely going to give that a go at some point. If someone has a lovely list for this, by all means send it my way. But I think this is something I would like to try. It feels like a nice way of being able to try and win the game. That is a little bit hard to deal with. The Death Touch is nice, but we did see that not being able to deal with flyers was an issue we had. Like the Psychic Frog just going over again and again. We couldn't do anything about that. Was a real problem. And I imagine once Psychic Frog gets banned, if we maybe go back to seeing more Delver, Dragon's Rage Channelers in the format, we'll have similar problems of not being able to deal with those. And we're probably going to need to end up with some more removal to deal with them as well. The Urza Sagas were obviously great, and that was the thing that pretty much won us the games, which isn't really a surprise. Grist did a lot of reasonable lifting here. I do like Grist here, but I think we maybe need a little bit more juice to squeeze from the Grist. Obviously, I went full into the Oogie Boogie, trying to get all the insect stuff working, but maybe you're supposed to play some of this in more of an Elvish Reclaimer shell, and then you just have like some more creatures. I was also thinking about playing Springheart and Antuco, but I couldn't fit it in the list. There's probably a Springheart and Antuco Grist list that is pretty reasonable. Obviously, Grist is already played in the Cradle control decks. You probably just increase your Grist numbers and maybe run some of this kind of stuff and possibly do some sort of loam package to go alongside a Elvish Reclaimer or whatever. So there's definitely some options there. I do like green-black slow depths, slow depths, but we're not playing depths. You know, like slow loam style strategies. They've just not really been in favour for quite a while, and all loam strategies are kind of on the receding edge of the format right now. I think I would have liked to have had a Shadow Spear in here. I think we should be cutting the Worm Harvest. I think that's pretty obvious that shouldn't be in the deck. But I do love the card, even though it's no good. And, you know, when are you going to play Worm Harvest, if not when you're playing your Oogie Boogie theme deck for Halloween, right? Sideboard-wise, we definitely had tools we wanted. I think if we'd have had access to Null Rod style effects, then maybe we can beat our opponent there. But they did Karn lock us on turn 2 in game 3. Like, what are we supposed to do in that one, right? Karnforge deck is pretty gross when it gets to do its thing. But yeah, like, for what the deck is, I think it was fine. I don't think this is where you want to be, but I think a Pox version using some of the tools we've got here would be really interesting. And I do enjoy Pox as an archetype. So maybe I'll be jamming some small Poxes with some Grists and Formless Genesis at some point in the next few weeks. Although next week and the week after, I'm playing all the top tier decks in the meta, so we can have a look at them to help people prepare for Eternal Weekend. So we're going to be zoning in, getting some sideboard guides, playing them as professionally as we can, and really trying to showcase what they can do rather than, you know, making entertaining content where we're actually going to try and knuckle down and be a bit of a spike about it. So if that's your sort of jam, by all means tune in next week. But there's still some more time for more spooky decks for this Halloween week, so tune in and see how you feel about them. And to make sure you don't miss them, why not like and subscribe? It does help the channel out and doesn't cost you anything. Alright, I think we are done for today, so please drop me any comments you have about this particular list or any nice little smallpox lists with Genesis in that you have in your back pocket. I would love to see them. And thank you so much for watching. Goodbye. If you'd like to support me in the channel, please check out my Patreon. It has a free guide to budget turbo depths as well as 3 tiers of support. A low cost one that enters you into my monthly raffle for a free donation deck on the channel, a mid-tier subscription that gives you access to my detailed turbo depths guide that is updated every month as well as regular articles, and lastly the higher tier gives you all of the above as well as a monthly donation deck for my channel. If you're interested in supporting the channel this way, please check out the link in the description.